And it also includes not only the general operating fund, but also the sewer operating fund. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And then I'm going to start a PowerPoint presentation. And then I'm going to reshare here for a minute. So this is the presentation we started with after the senior management team went through their presentation. Whoops, sorry. Let me redo that. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so after the senior management team went through their presentation, we started going through the budget book. We led the council through it with slides, and all this information is contained in the budget book. And some pages are referenced on the slide, so this is where I intend to spend most of the time today. So the first slide we talked about was what assumptions are in the current provisional budget. And so it includes the best known information to date. The budget is at a similar level of service than in previous years. Budget does not include cost of additional operating requests. They haven't been approved, and so we've listed them. And until they're approved, then they'll make their way into the budget. Increase in full-time equivalent staff from 2023 are now budgeted fully. And so what that kind of means is when we added staff last year, some were budgeted at 3/4 of a year, some were budgeted half a year. And in this 2024 budget, they're 100% budgeted now. An increase in tax of 1% equals $126,868. And any known or estimated inflationary contractual increases are included in the budget. And this year they range from 2.7% to 8%. This is a little breakdown on revenues. Similar to most Canadian municipalities, taxation is the district's largest source of revenue. And that is 70% in the district of Seashell. We get some in revenues from interest and penalties, and we have fees and charges like building permit fees, or business licenses, dog licenses, other fees that we charge, and that adds up to about 20%. And then we have grants and donations. These are operating grants. One is what they call a small communities grant from the province. And in total, grants and donations are about 6%. On the cost side, the district provides services to the community by incurring operating capital costs. And this breakdown is just for operating costs. So general government, 24%, planning and community development, 10%, community services, 14%, engineering and operations, 16%, facility maintenance, 5%, protective services, 18%, solid waste, 11%, and interest on debt, 1%. So here's our first page reference, pages 18, 19 of the agenda package. This is being summarized from there. We're expecting garbage fees to go from $270 from 2023 to $303 in 2024. And that's just, we're slowly bringing the fees up to match the new service level that we went to about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago now. So then the RCMP budget includes funding for 12 municipal members. General operating budget shows a deficit of $1.162 million. which is a 9.17% tax increase. And once again, this is a draft provisional budget. Revenue decreases that are included here is transfer from public safety reserve of 149,000. We used that last year to fund one of the members of the RCMP, and that's taken out for this year. Another revenue decrease, we utilized 250,000 from surplus of 2022 to cover 2023 operations. Increase in taxation due to new construction, and we're estimating that right now at about $66,000. An increase in budgeted interest on investments in 2024, but an increase of $82,000 over 2023. We also are budgeting an increase in interest and penalties on taxes of $36,000. And as we continue on page 20 of the provisional budget book, some additional costs that have gone up. The RCMP contract increased $196,000 from 23 to 24. Information technology, we added a number of software over the last year and a half. These softwares have been, their efficiency gains for the district. We have some online services that we can provide now, and they're all being utilized, and they've been a really good addition for us. So these software licensing fees are $191,000 over previous years. Increase in salaries and benefits, $219,000. Increase in fleet costs, $35,295. Debt servicing for the new operations center, which was completed in 2023. It's so annually we will have two payments, but in 2024 we only have one interest payment, and that would be an increase of $74,550. Increase to the overall training budget at $45,000. This is due to several reasons. We added a number of new staff, and they're now doing more in-person training than a couple of years ago. So we just had to adjust our budget a little bit there. Increase in the parks budget, and this is about $42,500. And this is, just costs for regular things that we've bought over the years have just increased, and that includes grass seed and fertilizer, doggy food bags, and washroom supplies. Increase in operations center operating costs. Now that we have a building, we have to supply budget for hydro and natural gas and other operating costs. So that's about a $65,000 increase. And increase in the public works supplies budget of $30,000. And this is, mainly increases due to pricing. And that includes, salt to general supplies and garbage disposal. So so how are we going to balance the budget? Well, there's a host of different methods that we utilized last year. We'll look at those again this year. Whether we use some 2023 surplus for 2024. Whether we haven't spent all our training budget in 2023, we'll utilize some of that for 2024 coverage. Transfer from operating reserves, taxation, fee increases, even looking at sharpening the pencil a little bit as we go forward. And these are all things we utilized last year. So,
hey Dave,
yes.
We have a couple of questions. If you want to, if I can butt in right now and ask.
All right.
Are there new RCMP officers included in the budget?
Not at this point, there is not, no.
And is the increased travel budget due to council, like increase in council traveling?
Not fully, but there's a little bit in there for council. There's a little bit of an addition in there for council. There's a little bit of an addition in there for the new staff that we've hired. And more of the training is now in person rather than online, and there is still online training that we do, but some of the areas or some of the conferences that we go to are more in person now than they had been right previously.
Right, due to COVID kind of.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So then we headed into the provisional sewer budget. This doesn't include septic, so it doesn't include the Dusty Road at this point. We'll talk about that in a minute. So once again, includes the best known information to date. Known or estimated inflationary increases have been included. Budgeted at similar level of service as in previous years. And a 1% increase in user fees equals 28,684. Keeping going with sewer here, the sewer operating budget shows a surplus of $483,911. We will be transferring that over to the capital reserve and utilizing those excess funds for capital. Increase in revenues due to new constructions, so new people who've hooked up to the system, 19,000. Increase to investment income, 4,000. Increase in salaries and benefits, 16,000. Increase in debt payments, 142,000. And where that came from is we had two chemical storage buildings built and installed over at the Water Resource Center, and so we borrowed the money short term for that. So that's the start of paying back the debt. Increase in transportation and processing costs have gone up by 36,000. An increase in chemical supplies, 76,000. Chemicals have gone up in price over the years, so we need to adjust our budget accordingly. Just a breakdown in the sewer revenue, 76% comes from user fees, 23% from parcel taxes, and 1% return on investments. Sewer costs, they're broken out by sewer administration, 12%, collection, 9%, connection, 1%, treatment, 47%, Water Resource Center, this is building maintenance, not associated with treatment, 4%, interest on debt, 2%, and principal payments, 26%. So now we're going to talk briefly about septage. The septage operating budget shows a surplus of 0, and that's because we've already budgeted to do a transfer over to the septage reserve. So the first item, a decrease in septage revenue, $70,000, just a downward trend in the use of the facility. Salaries and benefits, $4,400. Hydro increase, $2,700. And there's the transfer to the septage reserve to cover, the biosolids or the solids that we need to dispose of on a biannual time frame. Once again, several ideas here for trying to balance the budget using, savings from training from one year to the next, transfer from operating reserves or reserves, fee increases or parcel tax increases to help. If we need additional money for capital, those are the ways we would raise those. So then we had Manager Smith talk about the community association meetings, and we met with several community associations and we asked them to bring their top 3 or 4 items in their association's to-do list or would like to see list. And so they brought them to there was 4 of us, 4 staff that met with the community associations. And out of the list, there was 4 or 5 capital items that that we are asking council just to review and look at as to whether they want something done with them, some action on any of the items, or to be placed in the 5-year financial plan somewhere, or not to be done at all. And so this is just this slide is just a list of some of those projects. And additional to the projects, there was several operating requests that these community associations made. And they may be from better maintenance of drainage system in the area to some better maintenance on some of the roads, or so there was a separate list, or it was included in their lists, but we divided them into capital and operating. And so the ones that are operating, we've made a plan for us to look at these items from an operations standpoint. If it's something we can easily do, then we will go ahead and do them. If the operational item is quite costly, then we'll have to come back and figure out how to fund something that's a little more costly. So after we went through the community associations, Ms. Johnson took us through the 2024 operating budget requests. We call them additional operating requests. And so in total, there's just over $2 million of additional operating requests that we're asking for. These things can be anything from one-time occurrences, or things that will go on for years. Like if we ask for a staff person, that would be longer term. If we ask for a study, that would likely be a one-time cost. And so these asks are they can be funded from grants, or we may need taxation, or we may have a reserve that could cover some of these costs. And so staff went through the list with council. We have 6 staff asks for 2024. We have and we've rated these in priority order for council, so that they know which ones we're seeing as a priority. Just some other ones, we'll just go through these fairly quickly. We've been doing a 3% capital contribution to the general capital reserve, and we need to continue that. With this year's contribution, I think we'd be up to about $2 million annually going into the capital reserve. And we use these funds to do the necessary capital work, or we use these funds to match any grant monies that we apply for. So they're very important for us to have these, so that we have our side of the money when a grant opportunity comes to us. And overall, we save the local tax base when we're able to do that. So drainage master plan, it's a one-time cost of $250,000. D60 bylaw update. We started the project last year, and our estimates are we'll need an additional $20,000 for that. Accessibility audit. Once again, we have several buildings that may or may not conform to accessibility standards. And so we need to look at those and come up with a plan to address that. We have some, as described earlier, do have some new softwares that we're using, and one of them that we brought in about 3 years ago is called Microsoft 365. We are using a chunk of that software, but there's more that we could be utilizing. So we're trying to put together a training plan to fully utilize or more utilize the software. It's quite a large suite of softwares, and it would probably take a couple 3 years for us to fold it. We probably won't fully even utilize it in 3 years. It's just we need to learn more about it, get some training on it, and use it to become more and more efficient. Every 2 years we do this orthophoto imagery with the regional district and I believe the town of Gibson's. And this is just updating the coast pictures from the air. OCP update, $500,000. Now this number here is actually being funded from a reserve. Being funded from a grant. And so if we don't get the grant, then this project may either be reduced or not go ahead at all. But we'll strategize that if we don't get the grant.
You're going to the gym.
So we have applied for a grant. Then we're dropping to medium level priorities, mobile ticketing, tablets and printers for bylaws. We have a couple of reports we need to get done for the Davis Bay Wharf from a leasehold perspective, which are the two next items, utility billing module, in Datum, which is our software, fleet tracking software, just to keep track of not only the gas usage, there's many benefits to this, so we know when to maintain our vehicles on a more regular routine. Keeping on with medium priority, enhancing police patrols, for $40,000. Asset appraisal services, $20,000. And this is just to have our buildings assessed for our insurer. This is something that needs to be done from time to time, and our insurer has been asking us to do this, so we do need to get on with it. Then a few building upgrades, one at Rockwood, Seaside, for a total of $33,000. Community services master plan for $95,000. And then there was one low priority GIS development files for $10,000. Then the sewer fund had a couple of projects, an environmental impact study, and a H2S maintenance hole monitoring. So there's a gas monitoring in our maintenance holes for $12,000. So at that point, we asked council for questions, but we'll just keep going for now. Then Ms. Smith again talked about capital carry forward projects, and here we're referencing page 134 of the agenda package. The total capital number for 2023 was $23 million, and the value there shows about $13 million being carried forward, but we have spent, quite a bit of funds since the book was put forward. Probably, over $2 million worth of project work has been spent. So, it's every month we go forward, that carry forward number comes down. And there's a couple projects in there that we're still working through with grantors. And so one of them is a $3 million daycare facility that is just kind of on pause right now. So, if you take the 2 million and 3 million out, we're really down to about $8 million of carry forward projects, which is one of the lowest amounts we've had in the last 3 years. So we are moving forward on all these projects. They just take time. That's all. Then Ms. Allnut went through the capital budget for 2024 with council. And we start with all funding. We're looking at $10,162,500 for capital asks this year. These are all the funding sources for that. As we get into the detailed breakdown, we're looking at 5 new replacements for equipment for a total of $470,000. Parks, community infrastructure, park playground improvements, Friendship Park washrooms renewal, and Kinnikinnick well, which we talked about for a couple of years, so that we have a very solid water source for just sprinkling the field or having year-round water for the field up there. Facilities, there's a couple of major projects that we're embarking on with regards to facilities. We have our roof replacement we have to do on one of our larger buildings. We also have some weather penetrating the district hall office here that we need to do some work on. So that's a total of $1.8 million. A little bit more on facility. Oh yeah, this is also facilities, the second slide. So non-potable fill station up at Dusty Road, Seaside, refinished concrete floor, Rockwood Lodge, some drainage repairs, operation center, lift station, alarm system, and RCMP building access upgrades for the employees. Then we have a couple of items up at the airport in the amount for $225,000. We have a airport fuel pump or fuel station there, and we know it's a little older, and we just are going to get an assessment on that to see how many more useful years of life that it may have, and then we will build in a replacement into the budget. And there's just some landslide repairs that we need to do kind of at the end of one of the ends of the runway with regards to a culvert system. So that's total $225,000. Information technology, we have our IT infrastructure maintenance and enhancements that we do annually. Server room upgrades and security enhancements at a couple of our sites where we're seeing some vandalism. So so that would be a total of $127,500. Some drainage issues that we'd like to take care of in 2024. So there's 3 projects, so a total of $925,000. Urgent Creek Headwall, Gale Avenue Slope Remediation, and Chapman Creek Flood Mitigation. So then under the area of just general projects, we have capital engagement design. We have some funds that we ask for annually just to start projects, get them to at least the design phase, maybe even going out to do some engagement with the public. We've applied for a significant amount of money from this what they call the Housing Accelerator Fund projects. And that makes up the majority of this 3.175 million. And land acquisition, once again, this comes through the Housing Accelerator funding, so that's not local taxation. And this is for housing. The federal government it's a grand opportunity through the federal government, so we're looking at all our options. Roads, we do an annual paving program. I think this year's we're going to try to do about $550,000 worth of paving program. District-wide transportation safety improvements. You should see a couple of them from around town from last year. We have a couple of speed bumps we put in a couple of locations and some better marking. So that's where that would be funded from. We have road repair that we'd like to do out in Sandy Hook and Mermaid Street rehabilitation. Kind of like we have been working on the downtown core with regards to improving the road network and the sidewalk network. And this was just a continuation of that work that we started. Sidewalks and walkways. We have some areas where the sidewalks have gotten a little bit bumpy or have shifted a little bit, so we need to do some maintenance on those, as well as Jasper Road sidewalk. This has been a project that's been on our books for a couple of years, and we're going to try and move it forward in 2024. So in the sewer collection and treatment area, we have about $1 million in project work there. Inspect sanitary collection system. Water Resource Center annual asset replacement and renewal. Sanitary collection system asset replacement and renewal. And replace wood exterior cladding on the WRC building. We just have a few spots where some of the wildlife or birds have affected the cladding on the building, so we need to replace them with cladding before that becomes a problem. Additionally, we have some sanitary sewer upgrades, Dolphin Trail, Ebb Tide Well pump system, Mackenzie Marina Lift Station. That's a project that's on our books for the coming up. The money that's in this year's budget would be just for design, and the build would happen likely in the next year or 2 years, depending how long the build is. Then refrigerated, some sampling out of the WRC, and then paving at the WRC in behind. The sewer vehicles, they've asked for a scissor lift. We have some equipment and some inventory that are stored fairly high up. Some of this equipment and or inventory is too heavy for somebody to either climb a ladder and pick it down, so we're asking for a scissor lift to be able to access these higher spots easier. And then septage, just Dusty Road asset renewal, just some new pieces and parts to keep the facility running well, for $15,000. Near the end of our budget book, we have an area called asset report cards. And I think last year was the first year we'd seen them in our budget book. And these report cards give a kind of a snapshot look of kind of our known information on certain assets. And this year we have 1, 2, 3. We have 10 different 11 different 12 different assets that we have report cards on. That's a big improvement from the 3 we had last year. And we know there's some areas we don't, or we haven't been able to access yet to get to know their condition. And we know there's some areas of town where we have done some investigation into conditions of assets. So, these report cards are based on the best known information that we have. And so if we go through these items, our transportation network is good, but we do have some roads or sidewalks that are in poor condition, so we need to continue with our pavement management program. The playground, sports fields, benches in fair condition. Wastewater collection system in good condition. Wastewater treatment system in good condition. Septic receiving facility listed in poor condition. Green infrastructure, good condition. Information technology, very good condition. Cultural assets, good. Stormwater system, good, but once again, we have some that are fair or poor that we need to address as well. Facilities, good overall. We do have a couple of projects that need to be done to improve some of the buildings that we have. And then fleet is good. We watch the fleet fairly carefully. Once a vehicle becomes too onerous for us to maintain, then we need to look at swapping or selling that and buying something newer for that. And so that was what we walked through with council in the on the first, probably that we went through that with council on the first day, and then on the second day we dug in a little deeper, and we started to discuss more of the annual operating requests, get into a little bit more detail. We talked greater about the capital projects, got a little more detail, and we did get a number of motions from council on the additional operating requests. We haven't gotten there with capital yet, so at our next meeting, which we have, give me half a second. For our next meeting, we will start with probably a couple other operating requests that we haven't addressed yet. And then we'll move into capital and have further discussions to get a sense of where we're going to go with capital approvals. So it looks like here the next budget meeting, well, I think our next budget meeting will be the 13th. We have a council meeting on the 6th. Our preliminary schedule shows that we'll have another committee of the whole meeting on the 6th, but I'm feeling that'll be likely the 13th. So we'll be putting out notification of that meeting in the near future.
Sorry, Dave, so it's not December 11th?
The next Wednesday, which is committee of the whole day, is the 13th of December.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about the next budget meeting, my bad, sorry, apologies.
No, so I think that's the next day. We're just gathering information for council right now, and once we have it together, then we'll be putting an agenda together and having our next meeting. We're close, but we're still not quite there yet. Then the last item that we discussed with council was a list that they they sent to staff to have on the agenda. And this was to just spur some conversation as to some of the projects council had heard in the community, or maybe they ran on. And so in total, there was 22 different topics that we kind of went through, maybe 23. One might have come out of the woods there when we were at the meeting. And just got some ideas of where council wanted us to go, whether they want us to start something on it, do nothing with it this year, or bring it back for further discussion. And that's how we ended day 2 of the budget session. So that's my update on the 2024 provisional budget. And if there's any questions, we could talk about those. How much is being budgeted for Dusty Road? Scissor lift, can we just hire a taller people? Huh? Okay. So Dusty Road is the budget is really for operating and maintaining properly. And if you give me a minute, I can go take a quick look at Dusty Road. Almost there.
I saw it as part of the facilities request, so it didn't have its own number, it was just in that area, but I'm sure you make that.
I'm just filtering through 193 pages real quick, so I'll just need a minute more here to find the okay. Okay, so septage, just the septage costs show up about $294,000 annually. And that, in this case, that does include, yeah, that's just for operating the facility.
The Dusty Road non-potable fill station?
No, that's how much waiting for Dusty Road, it says. So I'm assuming that's Dusty Road or septic facility. Could be wrong. If that's for water, if that's for the water, we
for the sandy dune?
no, I think that might be for the non-potable water.
Oh, great, sorry.
We budgeted about $200,000 for that. But we need to get approvals before we move on that.
And then there was one more question. Did you hear any more detail about what kind of enhanced policing patrols the $40,000 would cover? And the $40,000 comes from the BCC.
Yeah, so the idea there would be either for a bike patrol down to the town core, whether that be in the afternoons or early evenings. Yeah, it'll be on a schedule set by the RCMP. Then was there a solutions paper for the Mayor Furniture? There was no resolve on that, no. And oh, thank you for answering. Okay, so I think that's all the answered questions online at this point.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that concludes our meeting today. Our next meeting will be on Monday, December 11th, and we will post the Zoom links to those very soon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So we have another session tonight at 7 o'clock.
Yes, but the next. And if you think you have any other questions after this meeting, feel free to email us at finance@seashell.ca. Thanks for sharing your time.